Good morning. Our gospel reading for today is very short and it speaks about fasting. 3 points that I would like to share with you this morning when we talk about fasting. The disciples of John came to Jesus saying, "Why do we fast? You and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast." Number one, we are reminded that when we fast, first and foremost, stop complaining. Because in our first reading, it is also the same question. Why do we fast, but you do not see? We humble ourselves, but do you notice? When we observe fasting, number one, stop complaining, because fasting is not to determine that we are holier than others. Fasting is not to determine that we are better than others. Our fasting is useless if we keep on complaining. Our fasting is futile if we keep on complaining. Fasting should bring smiles, joys, not pains and sorrows. Why? Because fasting is not a competition. The question may also appear, why do we fast and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast? Because it also appears, and it's a great reminder for all of us. Second, when we fast, stop comparing. We fast and your disciples do not. Stop comparing, because, as what I've told you, fasting is not a competition. The object of fasting is to please the Lord, not to show it to others. See, these same questions. We fast, we humble ourselves, but you do not notice. The object of fasting is to please the Lord, not to display our piety to people around us. Friends, if we fast but we keep on complaining, if we fast but we keep on comparing our fasting, it is not pleasing and acceptable to the Lord. But there is kind of fasting that the Lord wants us to do. What's that? In our first reading, it's very clear. If you want to do fasting, shelter the homeless. If you wanted to have an effective fasting, free the captives, clothe the naked, never turn our back to the needy, and share our bread to the hungry. And such fasting is acceptable and pleasing to God. And finally, at the end of the gospel, Jesus compares a fasting to a wedding. The wedding guest cannot mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them, can they? He's comparing it to a wedding because we cannot starve ourselves if God is with us. If God is with us, there is no reason for us to fast. There is no reason for us to be sad. There is no reason for us to mourn. Because joy is a visible sign that God is with us. If Jesus is with us, joy must be visible. And how to have joy? Again, go back to our first reading. If you wanted to have joy, feed the poor. If you wanted to have joy, free the prisoners, clothe the naked. And the prisoners were the good people of God. And this is where I'm going to conclude my reflection. You know what? Our fasting is useless if we are blind to the needs of the people around us. I think that's the the message of our first reading. Our fasting is futile if we don't break the cycle of sin in our lives. Our fasting is just a mere diet if we continue to engage in evil and wicked activities. Our fasting is useless if we destroy the lives of others. Our Station of the Cross, our piety, our almsgiving, our prayer is useless if we are blind to the needs of people around us. That's why when we speak about fasting, fasting is loving ourselves. Loving ourselves because we deprive ourselves of the good and we give and we share it to others. And remember, it is hypocrisy, it is bigotry if we are faithful in fasting, but our way of living is far from the Lord. When you fast, stop complaining, refrain from comparing, and joy must be visible if God is with us.